everybody? We are here at Rainbow Bar and Grill for our first installment of the Cash&Clark Productions, 50-plus years of Shelby County Basketball. And I am here with another great group of people here who have represented their organization well for the years. And we'll be talking about that here as we are here with Fort Loramie Basketball. How we doing today, guys?
Doing good.
Good. Now, we'll let you guys introduce yourselves and who you are and what you mean to your organization, right?
Carl Ratterman. I was assistant coach there back in the 90s with Dan Hagemeyer and head coach in the late 2009-10 era to the 2015.
All right. Glad to have you here, Coach.
Brian Albers. I played in the late 80s for Dan Hagemeyer in Fort Loramie, and I did a couple years of coaching junior varsity basketball as well as some youth basketball over the years.
All right, Brian, nice to have you.
Nice to meet you, Dion. Thanks.
All right.
I'm Joe Turner. I've been going to Fort Loramie basketball games since like 1974 when I was in first grade and saw a lot of the great teams over the years, and played in 1985 for Fort Loramie. And then for the last 30 years, I've actually been officiating high school basketball. And I wasn't supposed to be on this panel tonight, but someone else wasn't able to be here. I'm representing NK Telco because that's my employer. So I was asked just to sit in with the Fort Loramie panel tonight.
But you are Fort Loramie.
I'm a Fort Loramie grad.
Okay,
yes.
it's in the soul, though, right?
It's correct.
Okay, it's in the soul. Definitely glad to have you guys here talking tonight, all right? Now, before we go any further, we got to definitely thank our partners. Without our partners, there's no way we could have got this done tonight, all right, coaches? We'd like to thank Ernst Apparel, Wear Your Passion, Buckeye Home Services, your first choice for professional home improvement, superior aluminum products, a great place to work, CarStar, the auto body repair experts. We also like to thank Air Handling Equipment, which is innovative industrial air and compressor solutions. And last but not least, NK Telco and NKT Productions. All right, without those guys, no way we could be able to do this tonight at this beautiful establishment here. Okay, now if you'd like to watch this on the live stream, say you want to go back and watch it, NK Telco at YouTube, all right? All right, now, when you think of Fort Loramie basketball, when you think of Fort Loramie, who do you think of and what do you think of? All right, and we'll let whoever wants to start this, go ahead.
I don't know if it's necessarily the who part initially when you think of Fort Loramie basketball. I think it goes back to 1977, the first state championship. I think that's what put Fort Loramie on the map.
Wow. Now, what was it like?
Oh, I remember going to the games, went to all the games, and I mean, the team ended up the season 12-8. I think back in early January, they were actually below 500. They were like 5-7.
The team was 5-7.
Yeah, and they got hot at the right time, and it was Coach Hamlin's first year at Fort Loramie, and he came in and installed a man-to-man defense. They were running more of a motion type of offense, so it took the guys obviously a few months to catch on to the new philosophy that he was trying to instill in the program. And when they got on that run, and they had a lot of talented players, they were very good. They got on a run, and it just goes back to the memory books. You talk to people from Fort Loramie, and they kind of put Fort Loramie, the whole community, on the map, and it really energized the whole community. And we built a new school because of that state championship.
On the news, and now and before we can continue to dive into that, we'll let you talk about your
well, my memory is this. I was in first grade when 1977 team was playing. One gentleman that was supposed to be here this evening, Don Goldschmidt, was actually the point guard on that team, and he was a longtime varsity assistant under Dan Hagemeyer for several years when Loramie had some success. But the one thing I do remember from the 1977 team having that success in that tournament run and winning the first state title, like Carl said, the community just went crazy. I mean, there was no team in Loramie history ever won a district title in boys basketball, even though we had unbelievable teams and players in the 60s and in early 70s. But they sort of caught fire, remember, late in the year. if I remember right, I think George sort of went to a zone, sort of abandoning a little bit of man that he tried doing at the beginning of the year, sort of went to a zone when it got to tournament time. We were very big, and that made it tough for some teams. But shortly after we won that first state title, I think that team just sort of broke the wall down. And I just remember being a little kid. That was the greatest thing I ever seen in my life at that time. And I'll bet there had to be 100 to 150 new basketball poles that went up in town in the next 3 months in Fort Loramie. And basketball just sort of took off from there.
That's crazy. Coach, where was the championships? Was it at Ohio State?
St. John's.
St. John Arena, so it was in that atmosphere. And who did they play in the championship, Coach?
Mansfield St. Peter.
Mansfield St. Peters.
They beat
Mansfield St.
Continental in
Peters.
the semifinals and Mansfield St. Peter championship. Yeah.
Ooh-wee. Now let's go to yours. Now,
So,
when you think of
When I think of Fort Loramie basketball, it really started with John Kramer, coached before our state championship run, our team. He coached for like 24 years and finished right before George Hamlin took over. And had some great teams, great talent. So I remember when I first started going to games, watching some of the Fort Loramie teams play in the mid-'70s, had some great talent. And then we went to that state championship, and that was a whole culture change, I think, for the whole program and the community. And we went on and won a couple more state champions, after that time. Dan Hagemeyer coached. I was a senior the first year Dan came to Fort Loramie in 1985, and he continued that, and he had a great run through about 2000, I think, was about his last year or so. So a good 15-year run, 2 state championships there, and just really, Fort Loramie became a very prominent program, not only in Shelby County, but throughout the state, and established them at that time. So that's kind of my memories and thoughts about Fort Loramie basketball.
Now, we know you just told an amazing story, but I know there's other stories that maybe are not as defining, but might be as telling. Is there any stories that you may have, or like any, you've been through it's been a lot of years, Coach, you played a lot of.
Yeah.
I know there's a couple that are
You're
one or
coach
two.
of 93 team, so
Well, fortunately, I was an assistant coach for 4 years with Dan Hagemeyer and Don Goldschmidt at Fort Loramie from 90 to 94. And but before that, Brian was the point guard on the 87 state championship team. So that one came first. So I'll let you talk about that.
well, that was a very, very memorable season because Columbus Whirly at the time, they were sort of the top dog in Class A basketball back then, small school. And they were located centrally, so every year they would be in a different region. And we knew in 1987 if we wanted to go to a state tournament, it was going to run through Columbus Whirly. And the very first day of practice, I tell this to all my buddies, our coaching staff sat us down and we sort of knew we were going to be half decent and said, if you have any visions of getting to a state tournament this year, you're going to have to probably go through Whirly. And ultimately, we did meet them in the regional finals.
Where was that game at?
That game was at UD Arena.
Woo!
UD Arena and Jackson Center.
Arena.
And Jackson Center just 2 years before that, unfortunately, they beat us in the regional finals to go to state. They beat Whirly in the semifinals, and but unfortunately, they did not get the rematch with Jackson because we beat them the game before the Whirly game. But that was a very memorable game because, in all honesty, nobody gave us a chance to win that game. Nobody did.
Now in the game, you're in the arena, so you feel kind of like you feel closer than they, right? You feel like it's more of a home vibe. It's packed in there. What's the game like?
If I remember right, they said there was 5,000 people at that regional final game, and I'd be willing to bet probably 4,500 people were from Shelby County.
Oh wow!
That evening.
So it was just a huge home vibe.
It was very huge
And
home vibe.
When did you realize that? Was it a tight game the entire game, or was it like? Was there a moment when you're like, "Yo, we're about to go to
it was
the
tight for a little while, but then they went on a run. I know at the end of the third quarter, I remember they had a 10-point lead with 30 seconds left and had the ball and was holding it. And one of our players, Dan Holscher, poked the ball away, went down full court, and made a shot at the buzzer to put us down 8. And it sort of just
wow.
gave us new life, like, hey, we're down 8 instead of 10. And in the fourth quarter, they sort of struggled shooting, and we made a few shots and had enough to win.
Wow, amazing! And you're going, then you celebrate on the UD Arena floor, and then you come home and you celebrate.
We did
Did they
celebrate,
have a parade before y'all went to the state, or after y'all went to the state?
No. You have to win it all to have a parade. So
Okay.
we had to wait another week, but yeah, it was a fun evening. I'll just say that, and a fun weekend.
Did you see now? You got the witnesses.
Oh yeah.
What's it like watching this team?
Yeah, that was a nice team. We had some nice teams. Like I said, in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
I was on the scene my senior year. We played Jackson Center in the regional finals,
Ooh.
and they beat us.
Where was that game at?
That was at UD Arena.
Oh man.
So we had both won our matchups at home that year. We tied for the league championship. They beat us in the regional finals, I think, by 3 points. And they went on to win state.
Oh.
So I knew these guys. They were underclassmen when I played, and they were led by Tom Brandon, who was only a senior. He ended up playing at Ohio State. And
He was a sophomore.
He was a sophomore. I'm sorry. He was a sophomore. Yes. And that team. So it was fun to watch them, go on and win that, and kind of took a lot of pain away from our squad that didn't quite make it to that level.
Yeah, that's definitely, you can ride with the next squad for sure. So you guys definitely some great moments over the course of these years. And now, where's Fort Loramie at? Would you say, as far as how are they looking right now?
I think the talent level is down a little bit.
Okay.
From
Development phase?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
The coaching staff they have in place now, they're really passionate, enthusiastic. They're getting the kids excited about playing the game again. And it's just going to take a little bit of time for them to, get over that hump and develop the skill. And so I think they're working at it. They'll be successful here in a few years.
All right. Looking forward to seeing how it goes. You guys have had that success, though. You tasted a lot of success at Fort Loramie, so I know that has to feel good.
We've created a seamless process, so once the accident actually happens, to get you back in the vehicle as quickly as possible. The customer doesn't have to worry about much of anything. We have an estimator come out and dissect and really get into the pieces and parts of it. We do a quality inspection. It's now an office person looking at it as if the customer was looking at it. We don't hide anything from the customer. They're more than able to come out and look at the vehicle. If you ever get in a collision and you need us, just reach out to us, give us a call. It's 937-492-4783.
At First National Bank, we are working hard to make your life a little easier. With products like Card Valet, an app allowing you to control your cards with real-time notifications, transaction restrictions, and spending limits. The ability to access your money through 55,000 all-point ATMs across the country, surcharge-free. Live customer support when you need it. And online and mobile banking, allowing you to gain access to your financial information wherever and whenever you like. First National Bank, making your life a little easier.
This league, 60-something years, and nobody's ever left or came into it. Would y'all bring in an 18? Do you think they would bring in an 18?
I don't know.
You got 7 teams here.
It's
Not happened yet, so I don't.
That's an interesting question.
Well, Brad
You know,
Francis said it's 72 years without
And
any
if there was a
interruption
team,
since 1952. That's amazing.
so
That is
not-
amazing with all the different leagues and,
Yeah.
and the changes of the.
That's something for y'all to think about in this conversation. But all right. Now we know you might not want to say who's the top player, but give me the guys and give me like a few teams that really changed Fort Loramie basketball?
I think it goes back to the name Brandon sticks out right away. From
Brandon
the beginning, yeah, from Doug.
Now, how big? What type of player was Brandon?
Doug was like wing post player.
Doug was about 6'4". He was on our 77 championship team. He became our all-time leading scorer
At that time.
at that time.
Mhm.
And then he went on to Wittenberg, played at Wittenberg, and then he had a younger brother, 2 years younger. 3 years younger, Tony Brandon. Tony was. I played with Tony. Tony graduated in 1980. I graduated in 1981. But Tony was a phenomenal worker, a great player. Went up and played St. Henry one evening on a Saturday night at their old gym, and that's when St. Henry had Jim Lachey as a junior. And
Big Jim Lachey.
He was
the
big
offensive lineman for the Redskins.
Yeah.
It's one of the Hogs.
And they had about 2 other guys that are as tall as Jim Lachey was. But anyway, Tony had 30 rebounds and 30 points that night.
30
30
rebounds?
He did 30-30 that night. It was
the
amazing.
ESPN 30 for 30 special. Oh,
We
man.
ended up losing the game, but it was one of the most memorable single individual performances from my years of playing. Tony was great. And then after that, I mean, you could go all the way back in the 60s when you talk about Mike Ernst, who had the scoring record at one time. From there, I mean, any other guys?
Go ahead and talk
Yeah.
to Tom.
Well, I mean, Loramie has 3 state championships.
Okay.
And there was a brand we owned all 3 of them. So
So the Brandon Week
the Brandon family has blessed Fort Loramie boys basketball with quite a few athletes over the years. I will just say that.
Congratulations.
There's a lot of them. Yes.
Congratulations to the Brandon Week family. Come on out, holler at us, man. Come chop it up. Now, what about some teams? Those 3 teams. When did they win the championship? 77.
77, 87, and 93. And like I said, Carl was an assistant coach for the 93 team, which we haven't talked about yet. So
93, man. What's going on,
In
Carl?
1992, we had the only undefeated season in Fort Loramie's history in the boys program. And we had a very good team, played a very challenging schedule that year.
What's the pressure like when you're undefeated and now everybody's like, you're not gonna lose? They can't lose.
I think
what is that like?
I think it
Yeah,
caught
you're
up with us that year. It's hard to tell unless you go through that as far as the loss have helped us. Like I said, it's hard to tell, but we got into sectional play and we played a dynamic Watkins team that had 5 stud sophomores, a very talented team, and whether it was them getting better, and they were, and part of it was that pressure that we were feeling or just not performing as well as we were early in the season. It caught up with us, and we ended up going 21-1 that 92 season. So the next year, and we lost 4 starters. So the next year was a little bit of a rebuilding year, but when we were playing back at that time, and we had so many players coming through the program, it was usually a reloading year. Yeah. And we reloaded that year. We didn't have any main tall post player at that time. I think our tallest. Yeah, we had our tallest guy was with Jeff Brandon, 6'2", 6'3",
6'4", maybe.
but he could fly. He could dunk it. He was
rebounded. Okay,
yeah.
So he was a.
But anyway, we ended up going 24-4 that year. We were 16-4 at the end of the regular season, and we play our first tournament game against Anna. 3rd time playing them. They're being coached by Doug Collins. He's played for the Reds.
Doug Collins.
It comes down.
Third base.
Anna is bringing the ball down the court, and they're down by 2, and their guard lets one fly at half court, and it bounces off the back of the rim.
What? Oh.
At the buzzer.
Long.
And so we were very fortunate to come away with a win, first tournament game. And we brought our guys back. I'll never forget this. We brought our guys back into the locker room after the game. We got back off the bus, and we sat them down and we told them, guys, there's nobody in our region that we can't beat. There's nobody out there that, that we wouldn't have a good shot at being able to defeat and punch our ticket to Columbus. And we just had to convince our guys to just keep buying in. And so from there, we had a hard-fought contest. Again, another last-second defensive stand against Ansonia in the district final. I think we won by 3.
Tight games
It
the
was
whole
very
time. It's
tight
tight
game.
games.
And then we played Botkins again, 3rd time in the season in the regional semifinals, and that was a very hard-fought game. We beat them, and then we played Summit Country Day in the regional finals, and
What was that game?
Dayton.
Oh, so Dayton got all
Yeah.
the regional games.
We had a lot of games at UD.
Okay.
So then in our semifinal matchup, we're playing Lima Central Catholic, and their guard was Aaron Hutchins at the time.
Okay, yeah.
He went on to Marquette.
Yeah, I
And
remember
was
him.
at one time Conference USA Player of the Year.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was for real.
the guy could play. So we had played them earlier in the year at Lima Central Catholic, and they beat us by 9 earlier back in December. So it was a rematch again, and another hard-fought game, and I think we won by 1.
It was close.
It was a one
Tight
time.
game. Wow. So y'all started winning all these tight games. It's the whole tournament. Y'all winning
We
close
had a
games.
lot
tight
of close
games.
games, very tight.
So whew, nail biter. So then you get to the state.
And we had to convince the kids. It's like, guys, it's
You had
not.
to
I mean, we
convince
just. And I think LCC was top rated that year.
I think they were one.
They were a very, very good team.
Very good team.
And so we had to convince the kids, like, we're not done yet. We've got work to do. So
Yeah.
that last game, it was against Centerburg. It was a challenging
New
game.
New Regal.
Oh, was it? That's right.
New Regal.
They played Centerburg.
They
in
beat
the
Centerburg
semis.
another semi. Yep.
Yeah, New Regal. And so it was a great experience.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ooh-wee. I'm not just saying you just going back through it in your
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
It's like you just kind of can see it and visualize it. But it's nothing like hoisting a championship. You guys have all been fortunate enough to be a part of it.
Hometown Opportunity serves Mercer County, Auglaize County, Darke County, and Shelby County.
The website as a whole is pretty user-friendly. I was able to filter down my options, see what types of jobs were out there for me in the area.
It really opened up my eyes to the employer market around here.
We know that our local candidates, a lot of times are our most successful candidates because they want to come here and stay.
It's become the go-to site for anybody looking for a job in the region.
Together, we are family, working safely for our loved ones.
We are problem solvers who challenge the status quo and drive improvement.
We care about our customer relationships.
We stay true to our values, caring and respecting one another.
We embrace change as we journey through our career.
We are Precision Strip, the world's leading processor of rolled steel and aluminum.
Precision Strip, doing the exceptional.
Then and now, okay? The game's changed. It is what it is. I mean, when you got the likes of Steph doing what he, and then he does it in the Olympics, so it's like verified, right? But then you got Wemby. This guy's 7'4", and he's handling the ball. It's a new era. Do you like the new era? Do you like the changes? And what do you think?
I like the changes. I have no issue with the changes. I just think probably the biggest difference in boys basketball, I think, and Joe can chime in because he's an official currently right now, but I just remember my younger years, and Carl, you can probably attest to this, Joe. Back in the 80s, the kids right now are they're bigger and stronger due to football and lifting way more weights than we ever thought of doing back then.
It's just
and
preach. It's kind of,
and the physicality of basketball right now is just way more than it was when we played.
Yeah.
You couldn't guard a kid back in the 80s and survive the whole game without fouling out like you can guard a kid today. So for me, as far as the changes, do I think the players are bigger, stronger, and faster? Yeah, but the game is definitely, I think, more physical. And from me as a fan, I think that sort of hurts the littler guy a little bit more so than that big, strong kid. And but kids can shoot. I mean, we saw a lot of guys back in the 70s and 80s that could shoot a basketball, lights out, good players. But I just think the physicality for me is probably the biggest difference in the game of basketball that I see.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, when I played, we didn't have a 3-point line yet.
Did you shoot threes?
Oh yeah, I would have been really good at that.
Okay. That was your thing.
I would have improved my. Anyhow. So that was a big change in the game that I saw. And most of us don't even remember that era probably. But yeah, speaking of, I think just players are so much more physical, bigger, stronger, faster. They're training year round. We used to see athletes that would just move from one sport to the next, maybe not work out so much. But that's the reality of what we're dealing with now. So, we have points of emphasis all the time from officials as far as trying to cut down on physical play and not giving advantages to players, whether it be hand checking, knocking down cutters, and rebounding, getting position, things like that. So, I think now most teams have kids that can jump out of the gym and dunk. Well, it was rarity back in the 70s or 80s to have a kid that could even do that. So
when did they start allowing you to dunk?
I think that was like late 70s, wasn't it? When you could actually dunk.
At first, you could
grasp the rim.
My uncle played back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember he told me the stories where he had to lay the ball up. He couldn't dunk it.
Yeah. 3-point line, I think, came in 87, wasn't it?
88.
88.
Because my senior year was the first year they implemented the 3-point line.
What was that? Was you happy? You was a 3-point shooter?
I was.
So I
tried. It was fun. I played 1 year without it, and I played 1 year with it. And it definitely, I didn't coach back then. I was playing, but there was definitely some philosophies that you might have to adjust defensively and so forth to prepare yourself for that 3-point line.
So literally the first year that it was implemented, you was in there.
That year was 88 was the year they implemented a 3-point line, and they went from 3 divisions to 4 divisions. So.
I think another part of the game, though, that I agree with what both of you guys have said, but the other thing is skill development.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the 70s, there were highlight reels of Pistol Pete. I mean, the way he could handle the ball, Nate Archibald, guys like that. Now, I mean, you got all kinds of guys, even all the way to the big guys. I mean, back in the 80s, 90s, you had post players, and that's all they did. They're going to go down there and post up.
Yep.
And now you got the big guys, they can handle the ball, but I think from the NBA all the way down to the high school level, I think the guys have improved their skill development over the course of time, and these young kids, they work at it too, and they're good shooters. I mean, the range that stuff shows right now, it's amazing, and it's just from a lot of hard work, and I think the skill development has improved drastically over the last couple of decades.
Man, Fort Loramie, you guys have been successful in all other sports as well. But obviously basketball is something y'all have hung your hat on. When you think of Fort Loramie, you think of, Fort Loramie basketball, you're thinking of.
Yeah, I think success breeds success. Okay, we had that going for a long time. The challenge we're having a little bit now is maybe we haven't seen as much success over the last decade or so. So the kids aren't seeing that high level that a lot of our kids got to see at one time. So what's that going to take? It's going to take a nice run again to try to get back and playing at that high level again. And Fort Loramie's traditionally gets to play against a lot of great programs, a lot of great teams, and they get to see that, we're seeing that success. So I think that's kind of, where the program's at a little bit right now.
What do you think?
I agree with what Joe just said. I totally agree. We did have probably a little bit more success years ago, but also no, we did not have football. Football is sort of a sport that's newer at Fort Loramie, brought on probably about 20 years ago. So in the last 20 years, our baseball team, I think, has won 3 state titles. Our football team has actually went to state once for sure. So they've had a ton of success. So years ago, I think Loramie, the basketball program was probably like the king, and everyone in town, all the boys played basketball. But now we have to share our athletes, and that could be a little bit tough for some of these kids. And I just know personally, I can't imagine playing 3 sports in high school, trying to play football, baseball, and basketball. And we have some kids that are doing that, and that's tough. But we've been very successful in all our sports, so can't complain. We've had correct. We have tradition, so yes.
3 of them for sure. How do you feel about the state of Fort Loramie basketball?
Yeah, I think it's just I think people respect our program, and I mean year in and year out. I mean we play a tough schedule, and we always have. And the Shelby County League is one of the toughest leagues in the state. And when you think of Fort Loramie basketball, I think you think of a program that has had a lot of success. Yeah. Great tradition.
Well, it's been an honor and pleasure to have you guys on here. We're looking forward to chopping in the future as well.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Dion.
3-time state champion for Loramie in the building. Before we leave here, we got to give an extra special thanks to our sponsors. Without these guys, there's no way that we could have done this tonight. Ernst Apparel, Buckeye Home Services, Superior Aluminum Products, CarStar, Air Handling Equipment, and NK Telco and NKT Productions. Thank you for this opportunity to bring 50 plus years of Shelby County basketball to the masses, all right? Special thanks to Rainbow Bar and Grill for giving us the opportunity to do this. And last but not least, thank you guys for coming on once again, all right?
Thanks for having us.
Cash&Clark in the building. We'll be back with a new segment and 4 new organizations to talk to. Actually 5 new organizations to talk to. But in the meantime, go to NK Telco to watch the live stream on YouTube, or get ready for the series in November or December, right? And don't be forgetting, you guys are voting. So y'all know we got to still vote the top players in Shelby County, all right? With that being said, I'm Dion Cash, and we're out of here.